There are some stories we don't tell right away, not because they don't matter, but because they still hurt. This is one of those stories. And if you've ever felt alone in something you were supposed to feel loved in, this might feel familiar. There's something about sitting in a quiet place that makes the truth louder. My name is Jenn, and this is where we start being honest with ourselves. Have you ever stayed in something longer than your heart could handle? I have, and for a long time, I didn't realize I was losing myself. I thought I was trying to make things work. I met him at a time when I was tired of starting over, tired of loving people who didn't know how to love me back. And when he came into my life, it felt easy, calm, no pressure, no chaos. And I told myself, maybe this is what peace looks like. But what I didn't understand was that easy doesn't always mean right. We built something quickly, shared space, shared time, shared routines. From the outside, it looked like a family, but inside, something was missing. I started noticing the silence more than the conversations, the distance, even when he was sitting right next to me. I remember one night sitting on the edge of the bed, trying to find the courage to say what had been sitting heavy on my heart. I told him, I feel alone, even when you're right next to me. And instead of hearing me, he asked, what do you want from me? That question stayed with me longer than the argument, because I realized I was asking someone for something they didn't even know how to give. And the hardest part wasn't him, it was me. It was me realizing that I had ignored the signs, that I had chosen comfort over clarity, that I had settled for presence instead of connection. Even my daughter saw it before I did. She asked me one day, do you really like him, or you just don't want to be alone? And that question, it shook me. Because deep down, I knew the answer. I wasn't happy. I was just used to holding things together. I kept telling myself it would get better, that maybe if I tried harder, loved deeper, stayed longer, things would change. But they didn't. And one night, I sat at the kitchen table, journal open, tears falling quietly, and I finally told myself the truth. I didn't marry him because he was ready. I married him because I was tired. And that truth broke me, but it also freed me. Because for the first time, I stopped blaming him and started seeing myself clearly. The next morning, I stood in the mirror and I didn't see the same woman anymore. I saw someone who had been strong for too long, someone who deserved more than just being tolerated. And I said it out loud, even though my voice shook. This is not the life God has for me. And in that moment, something shifted. I stopped asking for things that weren't being given freely. I stopped explaining myself to someone who wasn't listening. I stopped shrinking just to keep the peace. And when he noticed the change and asked me what was wrong, I told him, nothing's wrong. I'm just finally waking up. And that was the beginning of everything changing. Walking away wasn't easy. It wasn't clean or painless, but it was necessary. Because I finally understood that love should not feel like loneliness, that being chosen should not feel like begging, and that staying was costing me too much of myself. So no, I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because I started loving me. And if you're listening to this right now and something in your spirit feels heavy, if you've been holding on to something that's been slowly breaking you, I want you to know this. You are not alone. I used to think the pain I felt came from what I was going through in my marriage. I thought that's where everything started to fall apart. But when I really sat with myself, when I stopped trying to fix everything and just told myself the truth, I realized something I wasn't ready to admit before. It didn't start in the marriage. It started long before that, in the things I ignored, the signs I explained away, the parts of myself I silenced just to make something feel like it was working. And that is the part of my story I had to finally face. If this spoke to you, if any part of this felt like your story, take a moment and let me know in the comments what you're resetting in this season. And if you're on this journey too, stay with me, because what I had to confront next changed everything. We're not just telling stories here. We're rewriting them. And maybe the hardest part of all of this wasn't letting go of the relationship. It was letting go of the version of me that kept holding on. Because for so long, I thought strength meant staying, pushing through, making it work no matter what. But I had to learn that real strength is knowing when something is no longer meant for you and choosing yourself anyway. So if you're in that place right now where something doesn't feel right, but you keep trying to convince yourself it is, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to outgrow what once felt right. You are allowed to walk away from what no longer aligns with who you're becoming. And you are allowed to choose you. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of me finally becoming who I was always meant to be.
I used to wear the hurt like it was mine to keep, folded in my ribs, heavy in my sleep. I learned my own name when the night got thin. I found a little light underneath my skin, and I kept on walking, even with the weight. Step by step I saw what the pain won't take. Now the cracks in me let the sun come in. I don't look like I did, but I'm finally